wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
The one thing we strive for in the multiverse is balance. That is the yin and yang of everything. And on this episode, we start off with the gothic paranormal romance stylings of author Crimson Heart. Then Multiverse sponsor Falstaff Books gives you a little taste of its yin and yang with its diverse catalog of offerings in the land of misfit toys. Then we yin and yang some more in the Taylorverse with Sean Taylor as we talk zombies, pulp, and comics. Finally, we look at what the hotel has to offer in terms of yin and yang when it comes to entertainment and nourishment, as we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Yes, welcome to another Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton, and look, I've got the awesome Crimson Heart with me right now, and that's awesome. I'm real excited about that. Love returning guests and love talking to people who have done this before and been around the multiverse. So welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it. And it's great to see you again.
Yeah, I always like to start off this conversation, as you know, allowing you the opportunity to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, since, you never know who's going to be in the audience and maybe didn't see last year. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I am a paranormal romance horror author, leaning more towards the side of horror and dark fantasy these days. So most of my writing ideas come from the experiences I've had with the paranormal. I'm a psychic, and so it's kind of always been around since I've been a little kid. So all of the weird ghosties and ghoulies that pop up in my life usually end up in my book somewhere. Or I'm usually killing off a boss that I don't like, somewhere from my day job. So it worked out pretty well.
Nice. Love it. So how was your multiverse experience last year? How did you enjoy it?
It was great. I thought it was wonderful. It was a very welcoming, inclusive place. And I'm really shy anyways, so I kind of was just watching everybody at the con and just kind of taking it all in. So no, it was wonderful.
Are you excited for the new venue this year and looking forward to going back?
I am looking forward to going back in the new venue. I don't really know Atlanta very well, so I'm sure the hotel will be awesome. The hotel last year was great. I'm just looking forward to seeing all of, the people I met last year, and of course the people I'll be hanging out with. So it's always great to get in contact with, people you don't see only at cons like once or twice a year. So.
There's this interesting thing going around about the elements of this con. I've been talking to a lot of new folks this year, a lot of people who are going to be there for the first time. And they were talking, when I bring up the survey and all the things that, the 5 million things that can go on at Multiverse, there is this kind of a trepidation from people who are kind of trying to figure out how to do it all, right? And then you take a step back and you realize, hey, I can't do it all. I may have to come back next year. So I was thinking from your perspective, you probably experienced a little bit of that in the last couple of years. Is there something that you haven't done yet at Multiverse that you are itching to do this year?
I was hoping to do one of the mixers. Those sound like fun, or some of the meetups from the very long list on the survey, because there looked like there were so many awesome ones to do. Last year I didn't really get a chance to do them since I had a table, so I was kind of in between panels and the dealer table. So, but yeah, hopefully this year I can do those.
How was sales for you last year? Was this pretty good?
They were good. Yeah, it was great. I had my husband was my minion, so he was able to watch the table while I was off doing something, which he never comes to cons, so it was great to have him there.
How was his experience? Did he enjoy that?
Yeah, he thought it was great. He has family in Atlanta, so he got to actually see them and hang out with them for a day.
Oh, nice.
So, and for a guy that doesn't do cons, like, he actually enjoyed it really well.
That's great to hear. I'm sure everybody who is a part of it will relish in that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So the meetups, yeah, there's a psychic one, isn't there, this year too? They usually do one. I know they have like a median readers where they have like the tarot and the Ouija boards and stuff like that. But I think there's an actual like psychic connection.
Yeah. Yeah, on the survey, I remember there were like at least like 5 or 6 different type of meetups that were psychic related, either tarot or Ouija or astrology or paranormal in general. So I kind of like it's right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Do you dip your toes in like tarot reading and things of that nature?
I used to. I only do it for friends now. I did it professionally for about 4.5 years while I was in college, to get me through, help pay tuition and everything. And it just took so much out of me between trying to write and to read. So I ended up just switching to writing, and that's how I kind of channel the energy that way.
Yeah, there is something to that about, it is, people don't realize that you're working an unnatural, for most people, unnatural element to kind of connect to something to get energy from. And that's kind of, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I mean, in like the busy days, if we were hired out for a party or something, I would read like 50 people in a day, over a course of like 8 hours. So I'd go home exhausted and not really remember how I got home.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, we would get hired out by some of the radio stations in Boston to do some of the big like music festivals. And so, yeah, I don't really remember. I remember going there and kind of doing the readings because they were quick, like, 5 to 10 minutes. And then getting home, I have no idea. Obviously, I survived.
And then do you have you over the years learned to kind of quell it or turn? I mean, it never turns off, right? You meet somebody, they touch you, you either shake their hand or maybe give them a hug, and then you feel something, right? And that really never goes away, right? But is there a manner in which you kind of quell it a little bit so that you're not being overrun by it?
Yeah, I kind of incorporate it to having like a night and day switch almost. So, or left brain, right brain. So when I'm like in my day job, because I'm a commercial insurance agent and for my day job, so it's like, it's technical.
Yeah.
In some ways, so I'm not really thinking about, what's in this person's future, or is there a dead aunt trying to send them a message? And of course, then I'll tell my boss about it because he's very aware of what I've done. He's like, "Oh, tell me more about my dead aunt." I'm like, "No." So it's kind of like what you want to focus in on. So
yeah,
I'm like, I don't
know. Those two worlds could not be more different, though. I mean, you want to talk about yin and yang.
Right. Yeah. No, they're very different, which is kind of helps to compartmentalize almost.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there something that you really enjoyed at Multiverse last year? Was there something that stuck out to you?
It was really just meeting everybody. it hadn't been a con I'd been to before, so there were a lot of new people I hadn't met, and just kind of experiencing, the atmosphere. Really, it was just great.
Nice.
The one panel they did, and I don't remember the name of it, where you got up and acted out a scene in part of your book. I mean, that was fun.
Oh, the story time.
Yeah, story time. I did the adult story time one at night, so
Nice.
that was fun. So
Yeah, I came in at the end of last year. In fact, I might have come in at your reading, if I'm not mistaken, last year. But yeah, I came in at the end because, like I said, there's so much going on, and I was going through different rooms and doing different things. So, I got pushed into, well, not pushed. I got gently suggested to go into it the first time, but last year it just totally spaced that it was going on. But I got there at the end, and I saw probably 2 or 3 readings, and I think one of them was yours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was kind of like thrown into it where I'm not very good with like theater stuff, so trying to like direct people like what to do, and like I probably picked the wrong passage of the book, but it was still fun though.
As someone who's quiet and shy, is it easy to kind of read your own books a little bit, or do you find that really difficult?
It's easier to do it when I'm just like focused on the page and not worrying about the people.
Yeah.
If I'm not thinking about the people in front of me, then I'm okay. And then if I am reading from my own book, I'm reading a mile a minute, so you can't understand me anyways. So trying to slow down and remember that people need to understand you is even harder.
Taking a breath, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when you read it out loud, it becomes a whole different thing for you at that point too, a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. What? So, are you vending this year again, or are you going to take the year off and kind of explore multiverse a little bit more?
I am vending again this year. I'm
Nice.
actually vending under the moniker Shenanigator Books. So
nice.
it's me and 2 other guests, Misty Masty and Alexander Christian. So there are actually 5 of us all together, and Nicole Gibbons Kurtz, who's not going to be there this year, and Susan Roddy, or S.H. Roddy. She's also part of the Shenanigators. So we'll have, their books at the table, even though they're not going to be there. We've kind of come together over the last year and a half to form like a collective, a co-op, if you will, to help each other out. So whenever we go to different conventions like Multiverse, or, if they're going to, Con Carolinas or Congregate or something, we can each have their books if one of us or a couple of us can't be there. So we're all representative and helping each other market, because that's really what, we're trying to do, is have authors help one another.
Yeah, sure. I mean, why do it if that's not the case, right? I mean, it just
right.
And you named some of my favorite people on this planet, so that's a great group to be a part of.
Yeah, they're wonderful women, and we've been friends for a long time. And we have a Thursday night writing group that we all get together and we sit and we write and we have dinner. So, and we've been doing it for years. So, and that's our core group of people.
That's awesome. I love all of those authors and the amazing people and amazing authors too. Yourself included in that group, of course. And so you're working on, is what you're working on, I asked you off air if you were working on something new. Is what you're working on now going to be ready for Multiverse, or is it just something you're working on during this time period?
Both, actually. So when we spoke last year, I think I told you I was working on 2 new books in a series that I had with Mocha Memoirs. So actually, the second book in the series fingers crossed, will be available for Multiverse, and it's called Mist and Bone. Also coming out with Mocha. So edits have been sent in, so kind of working on that. and I'm working on another dark fantasy. It's vampires and supernatural stuff. So I'm kind of just starting it out. Not really sure where it's going with it, but my main character, she's a professional mourner, and she just kind of stumbles into the world of vampires and kind of going from there.
I think, if I remember correctly, last year when we talked about your series, you weren't quite sure where it would end at this point. Do you have a better idea of that now, or is that something you're thinking about for the series with Mocha?
So the third book should actually is with Mocha now. So I guess it'll be going into edits pretty soon. And the third book is called Veiled in Mist, and they're all three books are, you can read them individually, or they kind of cross realms, cross universes. They're a multiverse. So the characters kind of interchange, but they're standalone novels. So I don't know if there'll be a fourth one. I haven't gotten hit with an idea yet, but they all intertwine. So far 3 for now.
So it's kind of open-ended. You can continue on if you'd like. And,
yeah.
Or you could be satisfied by the ending of the third one.
Yes.
Nice. And so this new one, is it prospectively another series? Is it a standalone, or have you not decided that yet?
I don't know. I'm just really like 12,000 words into it. So it'll probably be a standalone. I'm shopping a paranormal cozy mystery. So
nice.
We'll see where that goes. That could be a series if I want it to be. You just have to see how it ends up.
Cozies are interesting. That is a discipline I would love to try, but it is a discipline in a lot of respects because there are hard, fast rules that make it a cozy, and that's kind of an interesting thing, especially for a dark author, right? It's a challenging exercise, I think, for anybody who writes on the darker side of things.
Yeah, I call it a cozy mystery, and Alexander said it's not really a cozy because there's blood and gore and you see the violence happening, but it's a murder mystery. So like, I don't know what to call it. I mean, but it's a mystery and with paranormal elements. But
so it's cozy in terms of what you write.
It is, and the mystery aspect of it was something I kind of wanted to challenge myself with. And
that's awesome.
So that's kind of why I wrote it, and it just kind of ended up that way.
So I have a problem with writing mystery simply because I have this thing where I can figure out plot lines pretty quickly, or at least if they have twists, or if they have somebody, a mystery involved in them. And I kind of stick my foot in my mouth when it comes to those things. So I'm always afraid that if I put something out there with a mystery, that somebody's going to call me out and go, this is you're too predictable or something to that effect. So I've never dabbled in mystery. Mystery is one of those tricky things.
Oh yeah, and I'm waiting for someone to read it and be like, "Yeah, no." And if they do, that's perfectly fine. It was just fun to write it because the main character, she's like a midlife crisis witch that's just coming into her magic, and like all this crap starts to happen around her. So,
what is your favorite paranormal or supernatural creature to write with? Are you a big vampire person? Witch person? Where do you fall? Or are you like somebody who likes to explore them all?
I write a lot of vampires and a lot of Grim Reapers. So the Grim Reapers seem to be in all of the books that I've written, they crossed into different genres because death is everywhere. So I have one main Reaper that has been in over like 50 books of mine because he's death. He's like head honcho death. So he shows up and he's just like, doling out the information to people. And,
that's awesome.
He's kind of like the exposition character.
Yeah.
This is why you're dead. And, this is why you're all this. So, but yeah, I've actually, gotten tattoos of him because it's just kind of ended up being what I write more about these days.
Is there something about the dark writing in a darker perspective that's soothing a little bit?
Yeah, I've never really been bright and shiny and happy. Um, and that's just my personality. I mean, no, not knocking anyone that does. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Like I
but
do.
you're a very nice person from every time I've talked to you. So
I try to be. I mean, you get me after midnight, and get me in some water. You might see what happens. I don't know.
Well, you're not a
Um,
gremlin. Yeah, that's
I know, I'm not. But I think you laugh though.
yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's just interesting because for me, I've always had a fascination with death. That's where most of what everything I talk about goes to. It just naturally gravitates to that, and whether or not it is horror related or mystery related. I mean, the books I wrote that I published are crime thrillers, so it's even it's very apparent in those kind of books all the time, but it is very interesting to step into a darker place and kind of feel like you're better for having that experience a little bit. I know
Right.
that's weird to say, but I think
No,
there's
no,
something to that.
no. I mean, no, I totally get it. I saw my first horror movie when I was 4, and that was Poltergeist.
Oh yeah.
And my father's mentality was for me to watch it as many times as I wanted, so I wouldn't be scared, because I watched it with my mom and they were divorced. So, ever since then, I've always just been drawn to darker things. Like, it was between Poltergeist and Phantasm were like the first like horror movies I remember seeing.
Oh, Phantasm's quite the jump from Poltergeist.
Yeah, I don't know how old it was, but back in the day in like the early 80s, it was like HBO or Cinemax or whatever. So I've always just kind of been drawn to the dark because it's just easier to deal with the things I had to deal with growing up. Yeah.
So it was kind of like a warm blanket for you in a lot of respects.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty awesome. I don't think people would equate the two together, but I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah. And, your impressionable years, I always say, are like, your early teens and stuff.
Right.
So for me, it was, $1.25 video store right up the street. And I fell into like, the full moon features with like Puppet Master and Subspecies and all that stuff. So those were like my go-to movies, like besides Freddy and,
I've mentioned this, in fact, on this show before. I've talked about this a little bit, and we're of the same age and time period. And what we didn't have, Netflix or anything like that. What we used to do is we would covet VHS tapes of horror movies and trade them amongst each other, and we'd have like a movie night. And the whole objective was to find the one movie nobody's ever seen, right? And be like the cool kid that had the cool video, I mean, like Faces of Death was always the coveted one for everybody because you couldn't get that because they had outlawed it in California. So you had to like bootleg it or find it somewhere. And there was no internet back then either to just download anything. So you had to search really high and low, like to the depths of like the back of Fangora magazine to kind of find, that $5 you could send to get a tape of Faces of Death or something like that.
Right. I mean, even now, like I watch, some of the worst horror movies like you can think of, like Killer Sofa and Velocipaster and Rubber and some of like the craziest like found footage stuff. And I mean, they're so bad, but they're so much fun.
Rubber is just so unique and interesting. That is such a great film. I love that.
Night of the Lepus,
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, do you find that I know because a lot of that's cheese, right? That's a lot. And during that time, you some of it you knew was that, and some of it
Yeah.
you would defend with honor, or you would say, oh no, this is pretty scary. There was a lot of I'm trying to think of the veiled, truth to what you were talking
Sure.
about, right? And so I'm curious, how much of that really influences how you write. Do you find that do you find that you have a little bit of that 80s tinge of humorish kind of horror in what you do, even though it's really dark? It's that kind of is the butter that kind of, butters the bread
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit for you?
Yeah, I have a very weird, dark sense of humor that usually like I'll put in my books and people I'm like, I don't know if you get it, but like, to me it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not haha funny, but it's like, why not? So
Yeah.
yeah, it, yeah, I mean the cheese is fun, it's like like April Fool's Day in like the
Yeah.
80s. I mean that was like a totally like, try it makes fun of itself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Yeah. Saturday the
Um
14th, right? Stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Toxic Avenger. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
So obviously you don't write vampires as Sparkle then.
No.
You know,
They rip people's heads off.
which is how they should be. That's
Yes,
you know.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
is there a trope or something that you lean into that you enjoy that you remember from that time period that maybe you incorporated into your vampires?
I try to make each of them different.
Mm.
So in each of the in the third book in the it's the Forest of Bones series, Veiled in Mist, I had to come up with a different way to have vampires. So they're integral of the storyline, but they're not bitten. They were created by magic of this world, and it's all explained. So that's not something I've read before or seen before. So trying to find that different spin is always a little harder.
Yeah, and you want to be unique too, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much out there about it, right? So
Right. It's like, when you talk about vampires and you're having a serious discussion, whether it's in modern day or in the movies, you're like, well, what mythology are you going with? Are you going with
yeah,
Twilight? Are you going with Anne Rice? Are you going with Dracula? Are you going with, Asian or whatever? There's so many different ones. You can't just say, oh, the Christ, power of Christ compels you and get away from me. Because who knows if a cross is going to keep them away, or a Star of David, or a rock, whatever you believe in.
Were you a big horror reader growing up too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. And when did you start writing? Were you young when you started writing?
Yeah, I started writing when I was like 11 or 12. Like the first thing I started writing was like some crazy unicorn, kid thing about unicorns and princesses, because I was a kid, and then
Right.
it kind of evolved into I read a series of books and I didn't like the ending, so I wrote my own fan fiction, and that led me into writing my own stuff. And my first novel I wrote, like full-length novel, I was in college, and by the end of college I had a 4-book series that I was looking for a publisher for.
When you wrote a novel for the first time, did it feel like that, like a destiny, like you felt like that was you, this was what you were meant to do?
Oh yeah, I went to school for writing.
Mm.
Yeah, I that's what I wanted to do. I originally wanted to do like editing professional, like in New York and stuff, but that didn't happen. And so, I went into being a psychic, and then a restaurant manager, and then to insurance, because that's a great way to use your degree. But yeah, no, definitely writing was the first novel I wrote. I wrote it in 6 weeks. It was based on a dream.
Wow.
and it was a dream incorporated into a trip to New Orleans and the psychic tea room that I worked at in Boston.
Wow, 6 weeks. Whew.
Oh yeah, it was a little nuts. I mean, I don't know how I did it.
How many words was it?
Over 100,000.
Wow. I mean, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would bet anything that you would give anything to be able to do that again.
Yes and no. Not really. Because I read it now because it's still in print, and I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's just it's not bad. Like the story is good. But the writing, like the exposition, like could be completely redone. And I could probably chop like 20, 30,000 words out of it and be great.
But it's out there and you don't want to touch it, right? That
No, because it sets up actually like, the main angel of death. Like he shows up in like book 2 of the series, and that's just kind of rolled on from there. So
what is a reoccurring character like that for you? Do you try to, when you're writing that Grim Reaper into what you're doing, are you looking for something new to explore with that character, or are you leaning on a lot of what you've already written about them?
It's a little bit of both. So I try to explain who he is, because if you've never read anything about him, he's also a vampire. And so I explain kind of like what he is and how he got to where he is briefly. But he's also there as to like bring the other characters like, oh, hey, you have a choice to make. You can either die or, go back to life, but you have consequences. And usually he'll utter something about, his character and where he's gone in the last 15 years, like what's kind of happened in his reality, or he'll mention something in another book, to kind of bring up little tidbits from past characters and stuff. If people ever,
it's a great tool to market with.
Yeah. Now I'm just going to get people to read all of my books.
You're right. Is he more prominent in one of the books? Like, is there a book about him in this series, or is it just he's just the foil on everything that you're doing?
He's prominent in that first series I wrote. He's in book 2, 3, and 4.
There you go.
And he ends up being like the protagonist, like love interest, and kind of becomes a main character because he becomes an archangel. So there's a war in heaven, and there's angels and demons and Lucifer, and so.
Sorry, I had to cough.
That's okay.
So, Crimson, it's been wonderful catching up. It's awesome having you here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk again. Thank you for signing up again and being part of this. Really appreciate it. I'll come by and see you in October and say hello and at your table, and we'll probably maybe even cross paths on the panel circuit. Maybe we'll be on a panel or two. But it's awesome to have you here. It's awesome to talk to you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe, for having me on. It's great to see you again. I do hope I'll see you at Multiverse.
Yes, absolutely. I'll make a point of saying hello. Tell everybody where they can find these books of yours, and give everybody some insight into the books themselves, what they're called and everything like that, so people can check them out.
Sure. You can find me anywhere under Crimson Heart, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. The first book in the series with Mocha Memoirs is called Forest of Bones, and it is a dark fantasy novel about a half vampire, half magician, and there are demons, and they have to get her, or all hell breaks loose. The second one should be out by Multiverse, called Mist and Bone, which is more dark fantasy than anything, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. You have to read it, see what it is.
Nice.
But it's a standalone. So yeah, hopefully people will come and come to the Shenanigator table and see me and Misty and Alexandra, and we'll be happy to sell you anything.
And they can find you on. I'm sorry, I must. If I missed it,
you can find me at crimsonheart.com or shenanigatorbooks.com or Crimson Heart on Facebook, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere there is social media. I'm usually at Crimson Heart.
Nice. All right, everybody. Well, we'll be right back. And in the meantime, speaking of dark fantasy, we've got some books from Falstaff to check out, one of the sponsors of Multiverse. So then we'll be right back.
From dark urban fantasy to horror comedy to traditional adventure fantasy to military fantasy. We got stuff all over the gamut.
Falstaff Books is excited to present Nevermore, an anthology of short stories based on the masterpieces of the one and only Edgar Allan Poe. Are you ready for a spine-tingling descent into the depths of darkness? Nevermore includes 18 original stories written by talented contemporary authors who have been inspired by Poe's eerie Gothic style. From the interstellar terror of James Tuck's The Valley of Unrest and the mechanical shivers of Day al-Muhammad's The Clock Struck 13 to the dark revenge of Misty Massey's The Cask of Amarillo, the monstrous mystery of Kat Richardson's The Purloining Peacock, and so much more. Each story captures the essence of Poe's work while offering a unique twist on his themes of horror, suspense, and the macabre. Let our amazing authors take you on a twisted journey, exploring Poe's haunting themes in unique ways. Experience the thrill of Poe's tales like never before. Choose your pledge level today and let the thrills begin.
The Seven, Unforgiven, a fantasy novel by John G. Hartness. Chapter 1. Not much of a town, the young man thought as he climbed down off his horse and stretched his back. Certainly not the kind of place I'd expect to find him. But maybe that's the point. He took in the meager buildings as he walked down what passed for a main thoroughfare. To his right was a smithy with a huge green-skinned half-orc beating a horseshoe into shape. The peals of his hammer rang out in a rhythm that the man found himself unconsciously matching with his steps. He gave a wry half-smile and slowed his pace, not in a hurry. Next to the smithy was a general store with a wide porch. Two old men sat across a weathered open barrel from each other, not nearly as intent on the game of kings and pawns as they might want it to seem. The younger of the two, a whippersnapper of barely 70 years, cut a wrinkled eye at the man as he passed. He gave it no serious mind. People liked to stare at anything different, and this did not seem like a town where men often wore steel in the street. A pair of women leaned out the windows of the boarding house across from the store. One, a red-headed human with freckles scattered across her impressive bosom. The other, a lissom, elvish woman carrying the air of ennui and sadness that always enveloped the Fey folk when they were away from their trees, either by their own doing or by circumstances beyond their control. The elf caught his eye, her hand straying down to her thigh as she sat perched on the windowsill, a dress of gossamer green silk flowing in the slight breeze. The man noted the slight bulge of a blade strapped to her thigh. The willowy forest dweller was not without her defenses, it seemed. He allowed himself another slight smile as he focused his attention on his destination. The town's only inn and tavern sat at one end of the street.
My books. I love them.
Yes. Falstaff Books, everybody. Go check out Falstaff. They're wonderful books. My favorite publisher of 2023. I had a lot of top 5 books from them, top 10, top 12, actually, of my dozen. I had almost half my dozen was from Falstaff last year. They're just incredible stuff they're putting out there. And it's a really, really great. I mean, obviously a lot of people out there and already know John, already know who he is and everything of that nature. So, but Falstaff is one of those wonderful opportunities for sure to check out. And those books are available now, so go get them. I have John's book in my TBR ready to go, and can't wait to sink my teeth into it as I find time to read again. And we'll put a review out for it for sure down the road. Anyway, Mr. Taylor is not. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to join us here. And so I'm killing a little bit of time, but we're going to probably end the show a little bit shorter than we normally do. Before we do that, though, if you are a Multiversian and you're planning on joining us for the first time or any time, this will be all new to us, to all of us, because the hotel is accommodating us, and it's very important for Multiverse and the relationship with the hotel that if you are going to attend, that there's opportunities you can take advantage of, that you do so, because it helps Multiverse out in terms of fulfilling its commitment to the hotel, and lets the hotel know that they're doing something right and putting something out there too. And that is all of the packages that the hotel offers that you can do some fun, interesting things. And I'm not going to tell you about them. Jesse will. So, well, actually, I think I'm involved in this video too, but here is some of the packaging that you can get, and then I will wrap things up.
These folks were like, let's come up with some packages, some classes, some things like that you can do to really make it a good offering to people, not just turn us loose to go figure out how to, and just hope people go eat in the restaurant or something. So they've worked out some really good stuff with us. Like you can pre-purchase meals. There's, let's see, it's dinner Friday, all 3 meals on Saturday, and then breakfast and lunch on Sunday. You can buy them a la carte one at a time, or get them as a package. And the 2, I think, coolest parts about this is, one is that all of these, whether it's a la carte or the packages, taxes and tips are already fully included. So like whatever, if you buy one of those packages, that's all you pay, you're done. So those are, and every one of those, like if you're going to eat anyway, especially if you were going to eat in the restaurant anyway, this is a way to have it taken care of ahead of time with the taxes and gratuities included. And it helps Multiverse toward our obligation to the hotel. So those are really good. And
if you have dietary restrictions, we also are working with the hotel right now to try to come up with, like gluten-free options and things like that to make sure that we're being inclusive on that front as well.
Yeah. And one question we've gotten a few times to go ahead and answer is that we will still have our con suite like we always do. This is not to replace that, but not everybody eats at the con suite. Sometimes you don't have time. Sometimes you want to, sit down and have a meal in the restaurant. So, and they went a step further and added some other stuff. Like there's a wine tasting I think that one's on Friday evening. Then their staff is just fantastic. They have their chef there and the whole staff are great. So you can do a wine tasting there. You can purchase that ahead of time. Limited numbers of those. So if you want it, you got to get it before they run out. Same goes for the cocktail mixology class, which I think is pretty exciting. Like you learn the kind of tips and techniques for making a couple of favorite cocktails. And the best part about the wine tasting and the mixology class is you get to drink the results. Like it's like going and buying a couple of drinks, but you're actually getting to make them yourself and learn a little something. And yeah, so those are good options too. You can add those on if you like.
7 to 8:30 is usually the dinner break, and so those classes will be during that time so that they're not against programming. So you won't miss any of the Multiverse programming if you do those.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
And Joe says, got my drink package. The hotel may regret that option. So you want to talk about the drink?
Yeah, I was going to get there because that's another one you can get ahead of time. Would be the Saturday night open bar. And we like to do it upright because, like, if you ever, it's nothing against any hotels, but if you ever have had drinks in a hotel bar or anything like that, they're going to get their money. Like, it's not the cheapest place to get drinks. So the way to do it, if the option is there, if there's an open bar option that you can get ahead of time, you will save yourself some money. And we didn't want to, this isn't just like for an hour. This is for 4 hours on Saturday night during the late night programming and the Saturday night party. So yeah, 4 hours, all you can drink. We'll make sure there are some decent brands, beers, wines, everything for you, and non-alcoholic drinks too. That'll be included. Although that's debatable whether the value's there if you're just going to be drinking Coke. And then we've packaged it all up together. Like if you just want to have everything done ahead of time, you can get what we call the Everything Everywhere package, which is you get all 6 meals that I mentioned, plus the wine tasting, the cocktail mixology class, Saturday night open bar, and your con t-shirt. Just all in one package. So a lot of options there. They're all on the checkout page. So when you go to get your membership, they're all right there and you can just get it all at the same time.
And now what if people have already bought a membership? Can they then go back in and buy those other things?
Yep. You can go back anytime and pick them up.
So go get some packages. If you're going to be attending Multiverse, we would really appreciate you indulging in that. There's some really great stuff, and there's still availability in most of those. So please do take advantage of that opportunity because it helps determine what is going to be successful for going forward. And obviously, I think paying for the meals ahead of time alleviates a lot of weight and bustling from the staff as well. So I think it's a pretty valuable asset to have if you can do it. I would highly recommend checking that out. Something else I want to mention that I haven't mentioned all season, and shame on me for not doing so. And I will mention it pretty much every time we do this show back into the fall. Is that pre-registration is available right now for Multiverse. So if you want to come to Multiverse, you can sign up. The link has been in the description this entire season so far, but we would love for you to just come and join us. And it's nice and affordable. It's a really good weekend. You can come say hello to me. You can come hang out with me. And so many people that you've seen here and featured, come and hang out with us, talk to us, go buy their stuff. They're all going to be doing stuff at Multiverse. So it's going to be a lot of fun to have that opportunity to do that. So please come and join us. The pre-register link is up there, and you can go and just click on it and register and then get all your packages too. So if you plan on coming, you're eligible to take advantage of all of the things that is going on at Multiverse at the hotel. So get your registration in, get your packages, and get ready because this was the penultimate episode of our season so far. We're in the mid-season here, and we're going to take a little bit of a break in August as a lot of things are going on for me personally. So I'm going to take just some time off as we do with Going In Now. We're going to actually this year I'm doing a lot of stuff in August with Going In Now, but we are essentially taking off on the live aspect of things. So we'll be back in September with the fall season, and Spotlight on the Multiverse will be back, and we'll have a lot more guests, including the final guest of the season. Again, we're going to have Vanessa Junta join us, and this will be your opportunity she'll be there for the entire time that we're on live, and this is your opportunity to ask her any question that you might have, talk to her about how she programs and how all of that works. I mean, she gave us a little sneak preview a couple weeks ago, but this is a real great opportunity. That'll be on October 7th. So you'll want to mark your calendars for that, because that's going to be the end of the season for us. That's the last show. That's the season finale. So I'm giving you a little bit of an exclusive there. And we've got so many more guests to talk to, so many more sponsors to feature, so many things about Multiverse that we want to get out there and talk about. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Spotlight of the Multiverse. Thank you to Crimson Heart. And like I said, Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern. I always get East Pacific messed up, but 6 p.m. Eastern, is the mid-season finale of this show, Spotlight on the Multiverse. We have great guests. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll be excited to bring that to you because it's always time to go indie now. Bye, everybody.